What happened in Manchester this week should terrify every parent, every person who values safety on our streets. And yet, the media machine keeps spinning, keeps distracting, keeps you looking everywhere except where it matters. I'm about to walk you through 24 hours of chaos in Britain that reveals something much bigger, something they don't want you to see. Stick with me. I walked away from a big, well-known media outlet because I saw how they twisted every story to fit their narrative. Now I'm independent, I answer to no one, and I tell you what really matters, not what they want you to hear. Before we dive deeper, if you value this kind of unfiltered reporting, hit that like button and subscribe. And look, I don't do this for advertisers or corporate sponsors. I do this because the truth matters. If you want to support independent journalism that doesn't bow to the establishment, consider becoming a channel sponsor. It means more than you know. So let's start with Manchester. 3 police officers who stopped a violent extremist attack outside a synagogue have now been named as witnesses in an investigation. This wasn't just any incident. A 35-year-old British man of Syrian origin, Jihad al-Shami, drove his car into worshippers during a religious holiday, then attacked people with a knife. And here's what they're not emphasizing enough. During the attack, he called police himself and declared he was acting in the name of a known extremist organization. 2 people lost their lives. 66-year-old Melvin Kravitz and 53-year-old Adrian Dolby, who preliminary reports suggest may have been accidentally struck by police fire as they tried to stop the attacker at the synagogue doors. The attacker was wearing a fake device designed to look like an explosive vest. The Independent Office for Police Conduct found no evidence of misconduct by the officers. 3 people remain hospitalized. Investigators believe al-Shami was driven by radical ideology. Now pause for a second and think about this. This happened at a place of worship, during a holiday, and the response from authorities? Clinical, procedural, no outrage, no national conversation about what's actually happening on British streets. Just another incident filed away. But it gets worse. A BBC investigation just revealed something that should shock every parent in this country. Hundreds of very young children are bringing knives into schools. We're not talking about teenagers here. We're talking about 5- and 6-year-olds carrying kitchen knives, even cleavers, into primary schools. In 2024 alone, police recorded over 1,300 incidents involving blades or sharp objects on school grounds. At least 10% involved elementary school children. Schools are now installing metal detectors, knife arches they call them, just to keep weapons out of classrooms. The Home Office says they're tightening knife sale controls and supporting youth programs. But school leaders are saying what everyone's thinking. Lack of oversight and cuts to youth programs have left teachers without support, and children are carrying knives because they're scared. They feel they need protection. Let that sink in. 5-year-olds feeling unsafe enough to bring weapons to school. In Britain, in 2025, where did we go wrong? And speaking of things going in the wrong direction, the European Commission just presented a draft strategy that's causing major controversy. They're proposing procedures for changing legal gender without medical or psychological requirements. States that refuse to comply could face funding cuts. They're also proposing to ban any therapy that questions a child's decision about gender transition. The BBC covered it today, but buried the real story. Organizations like Sex Matters and Athena Forum are calling this out, saying it silences women and threatens vulnerable children. This strategy hasn't been approved by national governments yet, but the pressure is building. Now let's talk about your money. Remember yesterday's story about hidden car loan commissions? Over 4 million Brits have now filed complaints. If you bought a car, motorcycle, or van on finance between 2007 and 2024, you might be owed compensation. Average payout, £700. You can file for free, no middlemen needed. Lenders have until December 4th to respond. But here's the warning. Scammers are already calling people pretending to be from the Financial Conduct Authority. Don't fall for it. The regulator doesn't cold call people. And that kidnapping attempt in Blackpool? Video footage just came out showing exactly what happened. 51-year-old Nicolette Goldrick tried to abduct a 7-month-old girl from a stroller while the mother was paying at a shop on the beach. The woman, wearing a mask with a noticeable scar on her forehead, released the brake and started walking away with the stroller. The mother noticed, chased her down with help from bystanders. Goldrick later returned to the scene and was arrested. She insulted officers and spat at one of them. Preston Court found her guilty of child abduction and assaulting a police officer, sentenced her to 1 year in prison plus a 5-year restraining order. The disturbing detail? She'd been on police radar before for carrying around a doll and insisting it was her baby. Maybe she just wanted the stroller, who knows? But a year in prison for trying to steal an infant? That feels light. If you're still with me, drop a comment below with your thoughts on any of these stories. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. The establishment doesn't want these conversations happening. Now, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is defending a new initiative that should concern everyone who values privacy. It's called Britcard, a digital identity system. Starmer's telling parents this will prevent illegal employment, simplify access to government services, and boost border security. How exactly? They don't say. He insists it won't violate citizens' privacy and claims the goal isn't total population control, just an honest, simple way to verify identity. The government says digital IDs won't be mandatory for everyone, just required for employment or official procedures. Starmer's asking parents specifically to support this rollout, saying it'll protect children and families. But think about what we've seen governments do with temporary and optional systems. They always expand. They always become mandatory. They always get abused. Meanwhile, in Tower Hamlets, London, authorities have passed a resolution condemning the raising of British and English flags on streets as part of far-right extremist campaigns. The document claims that displaying flags in the context of anti-migration protests creates fear and division. The council emphasized its commitment to protecting diversity, fighting hatred, and expanding the No Place for Hate program. They're also planning to counter extremist activity and misinformation. Read that again. In a part of London, raising the British flag is now being labelled extremist. The discussion also covered the Isle of Dogs area, where safety and equality concerns have become entangled with what they call radical narratives under the banner of protecting women and children. The Pink Ladies movement, which opposes housing migrants in hotels, wasn't specifically mentioned, but their protests and clashes with pro-immigration activists formed the backdrop. So to summarize this information, in the Tower Hamlets area of London, you cannot raise the British flag on the streets, your own flag, in your own country. The number of people losing their lives while homeless in Britain just hit a record high. 1,611 people passed away in 2024, 9% more than the previous year. According to the Museum of Homelessness project, 11 children were among those who lost their lives, including 4 infants. Researchers warn the real number might be even higher due to incomplete tracking, especially among families living in temporary shelters. The Ministry for Homelessness called these outcomes an unacceptable failure, and charities are demanding an urgent national strategy. As of the end of March 2024, a record 131,000 families were living in temporary housing in England. I did an exclusive report from Nighttime London that shows exactly what this looks like on the ground. You should watch it. For the first time in 3 years, racially and religiously motivated incidents recorded by police in England and Wales have increased. In the year leading to March 2025, 115,990 such cases were recorded, not including London Metropolitan Police data. That's 2% more than the previous year. Racial incidents rose 6% to over 82,000. Religious incidents hit a record high, up 3%. Attacks targeting Muslims increased nearly 20%, from 2690 to 3199. The peak came in August 2024, following events in Southport and the subsequent unrest. Attacks on Jewish people, recorded outside London's jurisdiction, dropped 18%. Incidents involving hatred based on orientation, disability, and gender identity also decreased. Quick international update. Zelensky stated that strikes using new Ukrainian long-range systems and drones on Russian oil infrastructure have caused significant fuel disruptions, including loss of up to 20% of reserves and sharp increases in imports from Belarus and China. Systems used include the Polonitsa missile Ruta drone, plus mass attacks with Lyuti and Firepoint drones, along with Neptune and Flamingo launches. Zelensky emphasized successes of domestically produced weapons and expressed hope for receiving Tomahawk missiles from the US, which I covered yesterday. On the front, Ukrainian counteroffensives near Pokrovsk and Dobropilya disrupted Russia's plans to capture most of Donetsk region by November, despite Russian commanders ordering Pokrovsk taken at any cost. Ukraine is also preparing plans to protect its gas infrastructure through winter. That's according to the Daily Telegraph today. Interestingly, British press didn't mention Putin at all today. Back to Britain. 5 water supply companies, Anglian Water, Northumbrian Water, South West Water, Southern Water, and Wessex Water, received preliminary permission to raise water tariffs by an additional 1 to 5% above previously approved limits set by the regulator Ofwat. This decision was made by an independent expert group at the Competition and Markets Authority after companies complained that restrictions prevented them from meeting regulatory requirements. According to calculations, companies will receive about 21% of the requested increases, corresponding to £556 million out of the requested £2.5 billion. Group Chair Christine Bracker noted that most rate increase requests were deemed unjustified, but a small increase is necessary to fund infrastructure improvements with minimal harm to consumers. The takeaway from this, our water bills are going up again. Why am I a diver? No, wait, wrong question. Why are we paying more for water? Now let's talk about a different kind of water, beer. The British government launched a 4-week survey of pub owners, customers, and pub neighbours to revise licensing rules that, according to authorities, are strangling the pub industry. The Prime Minister announced plans to cut red tape to make it easier for pubs to host live music events and operate outdoor spaces. Proposals include eliminating the requirement to post notices in print newspapers when obtaining licenses, increasing permitted temporary events from 15 to 20 per year, and simplifying street trading rules. However, this initiative has drawn criticism. Dr. Catherine Severi from the Institute of Alcohol Studies called the plan a charter for chaos, warning about risks of increased aggression, violence against women, and alcohol-related fatalities. Critics also fear the reform could lead to even more establishments closing. As we now know, our bills aren't for beer, they're for water. What happens to pubs remains unclear. Let me give you a quick recap of what we've covered today. Manchester saw a violent extremist attack at a synagogue that took 2 lives. Young children across Britain are bringing knives to schools at alarming rates. The EU is pushing gender transition policies without medical oversight. 4 million Brits are claiming car loan compensation. A woman tried to kidnap a baby from a beach. Digital ID cards are being promoted by Starmer. Tower Hamlets is condemning the British flag as extremist. Homeless fatalities hit record levels. Hate crimes are rising. Water bills are going up. And pubs might get more freedom, or they might collapse entirely. All of it, points to a country losing its grip on basic stability and common sense. A report from Wales's Education Inspectorate found that schools see significant potential in artificial intelligence for reducing teachers' administrative burden and supporting students, but they're demanding clear national guidelines for safe and ethical use. Teachers are using AI for lesson planning and resource creation. Some schools teach students responsible use. Concerns remain about plagiarism, data distortion, and technology dependence. The Welsh Government supported recommendations for additional staff training and a unified strategy for implementing AI in education. Barclays Bank launched a promotion for new customers offering up to £900 for transferring accounts, but this program has strict conditions. Many banks sometimes offer such deals. If you switch from one bank to another, they offer a cash bonus. That's what Barclays just did. £200 credited for connecting to Barclays Blue Rewards when switching with 2 active direct debits and depositing at least £2,000 within 30 days. But servicing this account costs £5 monthly. An additional £400 can be earned by switching to a Premier account, but that requires annual income of at least £75,000 or a deposit of £100,000. Additionally, the bank offers cashback for transferring funds to savings, from £100 for £25,000 up to £500 for £100,000 deposited. This promotion runs from October 7th through November 27th. But experts note that the low 1.1% interest rate on savings makes this offer beneficial only for a very limited circle of clients. If you're trying to grab some quick cash somewhere, remember, free cheese only exists in mousetraps. Now, let's return to the homeless situation. While people are losing their lives on London streets, journalist Katie Adams spent a night in the new Zedwell Capsule Hotel on Piccadilly in London where you can stay for just £30. Extremely cheap for the city centre. Everything would be fine except for these conditions. The hotel, located in the former London Pavilion building, calls itself Europe's largest capsule hotel and offers 1,000 tiny pods measuring roughly 2 meters by 1 meter by 1 meter. Check-in happens through automated machines where you scan a QR code. There's luggage storage, separate payment of £15, a gym that's free thank goodness, and vending machines with items like condoms. Despite the lack of windows and minimal furnishings, these capsules are clean according to the correspondent, quiet and reasonably comfortable. But given her height, it's believable. Guests, including office workers, students, and revellers who stayed out late in central London, value the convenience and price, comparable to a taxi ride home. The author notes she slept well in the capsule, though the joy of returning to her own bed the next day was immense. I found cheaper hotels in London when I urgently needed to stay overnight in the city centre, but in such a capsule, I think with my height, there would definitely be problems. But in any case, we're getting closer to the future. The flight wasn't exhausting. Stewardesses activate artificial sleep settings in individual cells. If you watched our morning news broadcast, you know a new 3-part documentary came out on Netflix with Victoria Beckham, where she tells her story from school loneliness and Spice Girls success to the difficult transition into the fashion industry. She candidly describes the crisis in her business when Victoria Beckham Limited found itself with tens of millions in debt. According to her, she almost lost everything, cried every day before work, while husband David Beckham wouldn't and couldn't save her brand, which later achieved success and entered global markets. This film also touches on personal family life, including rumors of conflict with son Brooklyn, the theme of her non-smiling image in photos and thinness, plus the couple's memories about the start of their relationship. The series concludes with preparation for the 2024 Paris Fashion Week show, confirming her position in the world of high fashion. What can you say? Advertising detected. On front pages of all newspapers, BBC articles on major portals. She's practically everywhere. I understand this cost very big money. Well, unless it's just sincere interest from journalists and mass media. So we've covered Manchester extremism, knife-carrying children, EU gender policies, compensation schemes, kidnapping attempts, digital surveillance, flag controversies, record homelessness, rising hate crimes, Ukraine updates, increasing water bills, pub reforms, AI in education, banking promotions, capsule hotels, and celebrity documentaries. Every single one of these stories reveals something about where Britain is heading, and it's not pretty. This is the reality they don't want you discussing. This is why independent voices matter more than ever. If this kind of reporting matters to you, if you value someone telling it straight without corporate filters or political handlers whispering in their ear, then hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and seriously consider becoming a sponsor. This isn't a guilt trip, it's reality. Independent journalism survives only if people like you support it. The establishment has unlimited resources. I have you. And honestly, that means everything. Share this video. Talk about these issues. Don't let them memory hole what's happening. Britain deserves better than this. You deserve the truth, and I'll keep bringing it to you no matter what.